In the world of social media, we have seen a rise of influencers in many different subcultures and communities. From trad wives to goths, you can always find familiar faces in any niche your heart desires. In my opinion, and this is debatable to some, I think the harms outweigh the good that can come from putting someone on a pedestal, at least at the rate things are going now. Hey everyone, my name is Aram, and I haven't used this channel in like 4 years, but I've had some thoughts on my mind recently that I'd like to share, and I thought what better place to share than YouTube. My main topic today is discussing the issues with the Muslim influencer space and the impact it has had on our community. I've thought about this for a while on why the idea bothers me so much, and I condensed it down to 6 points, so stick around to find out. Also, this video is no hate to anyone in particular. The reason I decided to record this is to reflect on some issues I've noticed, not to put blame on anyone specifically. I think we as a community need to be more mindful with how we engage with content online and what it does to our culture and faith. So I'm hoping this can shed some light for you so you can engage with this content more critically and help you understand where I'm coming from. Now look, I'm not saying every Muslim influencer is bad or out here ruining the ummah, not at all. In fact, I have learned some things from some of them. I would say that some are just doing their thing, sharing their lives, trying to survive the algorithm like the rest of us. But there's a pattern that I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about, and it's time we said it plainly. A lot of Muslim influencers are pushing a version of Islam that is filtered, aesthetic, shallow, and honestly kind of damaging. Before I go any further, let me say this clearly. I'm not perfect, not even close. I wear makeup, I use music in my videos. I know there are things I do that some people wouldn't consider fully aligned with the deen. And I know to some that might seem hypocritical, and I understand why you would think that. But here's the difference. I don't brand myself as a Muslim influencer, mainly because I'm not an influencer. I'm not here trying to represent Islam either. I've actually never been paid to do social media, and it's just something I do for fun. But through researching and making this video, I think it's about time for me to reflect on the kind of content I'm producing as well, and I hope that I will be more modest and mindful in my approach going forward. I'm just sharing my thoughts as a person, someone who's still learning, still messing up, and figuring things out. I don't want anyone to look up to me, and I don't want to be seen as a role model, and I definitely don't want to be seen as a religious figure or an example of how a Muslim should be, because I know I still have a lot to improve on. But the people I'm talking about do frame themselves that way. They build their identity around Islam, they give advice, they share spiritual reflections, they post hijab tutorials and Ramadan routines. So if you're going to publicly represent Islam, you do carry a responsibility. You should be held to a higher standard. Because people, especially young people, are watching. They're learning from you. They're building their understanding of Islam around your content. And if your content is inconsistent, confusing, or shallow, that has a real impact. Let's start with the most obvious one, the modest aesthetic as a brand. Hijab, for example, is no longer just a religious commitment. It's a vibe. It's part of a certain look. You've got satin abayas, constant home remodeling to fit whatever aesthetic or season they're participating in at the moment. It brings to mind all the Ramadan aesthetic decoration videos that flood the FYP every year, as some would call it, consumerism final boss. Commercializing Ramadan into an aesthetic instead of focusing on improving your iman is somehow supposed to represent Islam? I'm not saying women or anyone shouldn't look good or express themselves, or that you shouldn't make religious holidays something to look forward to for yourself or your kids. But when hijab and our religious holiday become just an accessory and not a sign of modesty, humility, or devotion, we lose the meaning completely. And when influencers monetize that by launching, and I might say not very good brands, looking at all of those overpriced polyester modest dresses that are obviously from Temu or Alibaba, they participate in collabs, sell that image of piety. It starts to feel like Islam is being commodified, like faith is no longer something you live by, it's just something you market. My second point is marriage culture. A lot of these Muslim influencers push this low-key obsession with getting married young, sometimes before finishing school, without real careers, with very little life experience. And the way they present it is like it's this ultimate goal for Muslim women. If you watch enough of this content, you start thinking, maybe I'm behind if I'm not married by 23. Maybe education doesn't matter that much. Maybe my whole purpose is just to have a big wedding, tap into my feminine energy, and live the soft life. And again, nothing wrong with choosing marriage or wanting a family. But why is that the only story we're telling young Muslim girls? I think it would be far more beneficial to teach these girls the options and opportunities they have. It's a blessing to be married and have kids, but here's what you're also capable of. It's like the only Muslim women who get big platforms are the ones who fit into this mold of being pretty, passive, and palatable. And by the way, these standards always seem to be pushed towards Muslim women and never the men. Maybe it's because I'm a woman and this is the content being promoted to me by the algorithm, but I rarely see men being put in these positions. I don't know, this is something I need to research more, like what is the content being pushed towards men by male Muslim influencers? My third point is misrepresenting the faith to fit an aesthetic. They rarely teach anything of actual value. Just vibes, just quotes, just Pinterest-level Islam. And it's like, cool, but what are we learning? You'll hear a lot of don't judge and stay in your lane and no one's perfect, which, yeah, sure, those are valid reminders. But when that's your entire personality, it starts to feel like you're just dodging accountability. Because if you're going to build a platform of Islam, if you're using the deen to attract followers, promote products, or preach, then you do carry responsibility. You don't get to opt out when it's convenient. And here's what it's doing to the community. It's making young Muslims confused, disillusioned, and sometimes even resentful of their faith. They're seeing influencers live double lives, preaching modesty but seeking fame, posting Quran quotes in one video and thirst traps in the next. And honestly, it just makes people give up. The worst part is that this content gets rewarded. It performs well, it's easy to digest, it's pretty, but it's also hollow. And look, I'm not trying to hate anyone's life choices, but when you put your choices on a platform and influence hundreds of thousands of people, you're no longer just living your truth. You're shaping culture. You're influencing how people see faith. And if all you're doing is selling products, aesthetics, romance, and surface-level spirituality, people are going to comment on it. 4. Exploiting the Muslim identity until it stops being profitable. Here's something a lot of people notice, but no one wants to talk about. Once some of these influencers hit a certain number of followers, they take off their hijab. Let's be real, they built their entire platform on the backs of their Muslim audience, pushing modest fashion, hijab tutorials, and how I stay close to Allah videos and all that. But once the numbers start climbing and the brand deals start rolling, suddenly it's, I just feel like the hijab is holding me back. I just don't feel authentic anymore. I want to be true to myself. And listen, if someone is genuinely struggling with their hijab, I have compassion for that. We're all human. But what's frustrating is when they start pushing the idea that the hijab is limiting my growth, as if Islam is the problem, not the industry they chose to be in. And of course, the second the hijab comes off, the reach goes up, the brand deals widen, and now they're rebranding for a more generic, Western-friendly audience. But the core issue here is they profited off their Muslim identity and then discarded it when it stopped being convenient. That's not growth, that's exploitation. 5. Selling a pipe dream. Now let's go back to the marriage thing for a second. These influencers are constantly preaching about being soft wives, dependent on your husband, cooking, cleaning, and how a woman should stay in the home and not worry about work or ambition. But let's zoom out. Because behind the scenes, a lot of them are full-time influencers. They're making their own money, sometimes more than their husbands. They're not just posting for fun. This is business. And honestly, that's smart. Having a backup plan, earning your own income, being financially independent, that's important, especially in a world where marriages break down, people experience abuse or neglect, and life gets unpredictable. So why aren't they teaching young girls that part? Why are they selling this fantasy where you're completely reliant on your husband while they themselves are making money on the side, building brands, managing projects, signing deals? It's giving do as I say, not as I do. They're living a life of modern independence while promoting an outdated narrative of total dependence. And honestly, it's dangerous because if you're a 19-year-old girl watching this, you're being told, you don't need school, just get married, a man will provide. But what if he doesn't? What if things go wrong? What if you lose your identity, your resources, your ability to stand on your own? You can even see it with the rising number of divorces happening online. They still have their platforms to fall back on and that financial security. I do not wish for anyone to experience the kind of pain divorce brings, so I honestly do feel bad whenever I read this kind of news online. But here's the thing, the influencer will be fine. She's got savings, followers, and a platform. You won't. And that's the hypocrisy I can't ignore. Also, by the way, I'm obviously not talking about instances of abuse or DV, just simply going your separate ways or marriages not working out. 6. Performative activism and brand deal solidarity. In my personal opinion, I don't really expect everyone to always talk about all global issues all the time. It's hard, it's heartbreaking, and life gets in the way. Since late 2024 up until now, I feel like I've been in hell and my life is hanging on by a thread. So I do understand that life gets in the way, and I would understand someone going through something that takes up every thought and moment in your life, and that you struggle to cope. We aren't machines and people break down, and that's okay. So if someone was to come out and be authentic with their audience, I honestly wouldn't be mad or care. My issue on this topic stems from how they use social justice causes to prop themselves up as a branding and marketing tool rather than genuine empathy or care. You can talk about whatever you want. I would never want to force anyone to align with the causes I align with, or force them to speak up if they don't want to. Everyone has circumstances we don't know or understand, which is why I don't agree with fans pressuring them to speak up. But if you do decide to speak up, do it because you care. Lately, a lot of Muslim influencers have been aligning themselves with causes like Palestine, which on the surface sounds like a good thing, right? They're posting infographics, wearing kufiyyas, maybe even throwing a free Palestine in there. But here's the issue. Many of these same influencers are still working with brands that are directly complicit, companies that fall under the BDS boycott list or are publicly supporting the occupation. And when people call them out for it, they don't take accountability, they don't apologize, they don't divest. Instead, they start performing righteousness. I raised awareness, I spoke out. But if you really cared, your activism wouldn't end where your brand deals begin. And the truth is, a lot of this activism is so sanitized, so PR-friendly, so filtered through the lens of what will keep me safe in the algorithm. They'll say things like, "We stand with humanity, pray for peace, no one deserves to suffer." But they won't name the oppressor. They won't risk saying anything that might actually put pressure on the system or their sponsors. And to be honest, it feels like they're using these causes as props. Not to fight for justice, but to polish their image. Because solidarity without sacrifice? That's just marketing. And again, I'm not saying everyone has to be perfect and that no one can ever make mistakes. But when you publicly represent Islam and attach yourself to serious global issues, you can't use religion and activism as a shield from criticism. It doesn't work like that. No one is asking you to be a politician or know everything or fix the problem. Just the bare minimum of not profiting off the suffering of others and promoting brands that fall under the boycott. So yeah, that's the issue with the Muslim influencing culture today. Muslim influencers, and I don't mean all, but like many, are shaping a version of Islam that's commercialized, shallow, and full of contradictions. And it's not that they're evil. It's not that they're out there to destroy Islam. It's just that they've made faith into content, into an aesthetic. Cringe, it's harmful, especially to young girls who are looking for guidance, for identity, for something real. You deserve to know the full picture. You deserve to be taught how to survive in this world with your dignity and faith and your mind intact. If you've ever felt something was off with this content, trust your gut feeling. So let's start being critical consumers, not passive followers. Let me know your thoughts below. I really want this to be a discussion, not a monologue. Are there any influencers you do respect? What kind of representation do you want to see more of? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more long-form content. I'll see you next time. Thank you.